Spill the Beans provides proof that Nancy Pelosi is senile. We knew it. Since Trump was elected, Dems have spoken out at every turn, but it has been backfiring. Not only does it deter us from supporting Trump, it also proves how insane they are. Nancy Pelosi has been losing her marbles lately, showing odd behavior and making many Americans ask one question: is she senile? According to Dick Morris, a political consultant, she is. He thinks Pelosi's not only losing her edge, but losing it in general. And it's not hard to wonder why.
Is Nancy Pelosi senile? When you look at her statements over the last couple of months, you're driven to the conclusion that she really has begun to lose it. She constantly confuses the names of the president. She recently gave a whole thing denouncing Bush, whereas in fact she was planning to denounce Trump. And she's missing her cues. She's saying stuff that's confused and sort of garbage. When you read the text of her remarks, you wonder what's the matter with her. And now there are some people on whom senility is an improvement. And in the case of Nancy Pelosi, I think that may be the case. But really, this woman is losing it. And the Democratic Party should not entrust their fortunes to a new kid on the block like Chuck Schumer and a senile old lady like Nancy Pelosi. That's free advice to the party. The bill that Ryan and Trump are pushing, with the help of the House Republicans, to replace Obamacare is a very good bill, and it should be passed. And the conservative Republicans from the Freedom Caucus are making a mistake in opposing it and adopting a strong position against it. It's a very good bill. First of all, it relieves everyone of the necessity of buying health insurance or facing a fine. It preserves the ability of low-income people, moderate-income people, to buy health insurance by offering tax credits that are reasonable. They're not crazy. And it makes sure that the protections are kept, that pre-existing conditions can't be the basis for exclusion, and you have to continue to cover someone when they're sick and you can't raise their rates. The bill needs one major change, and that is that it incorporates the list of 10 services that are required under the current Obamacare bill. And those services drive the cost way up, make this program itself too expensive, the replacement program, and drive people away from health care because the premiums and the deductibles are so high. And the more people drop out of the program, the higher they go, and this death spiral takes over. You have got to include in the bill language that gives the administrator of HHS the power to approve health insurance programs that do not include all 10 of these items, and specifically to approve catastrophic coverage if that's what people want. Right now you can only get it if you're under 30 years of age. Now, the other aspect that's contentious is the Medicaid expansion, where 10 million new people became eligible for Medicaid. The conservatives want to end that in 2018. The Ryan-Trump bill says end it in 2020. Well, end it in 2019 or something. That shouldn't be a major reason not to pass this legislation, as long as you know that it's going to end and that that program is, in fact, repealed. So I think this bill should pass, and I think the conservatives that are trying to block it are doing their party and their country a real disservice. To the arcane Senate rules, a normal piece of legislation requires 60 votes to bring it to the floor. But legislation that's about the budget requires only 50 votes plus the vice president to bring it to the floor. So entire parts of the Obamacare repeal can be passed under the 50-vote margin. But crucial parts, like what I've been pushing for, scaling back the number of required services, so those 10 services now in the bill are diluted and are optional, and people can buy whatever kind of insurance they want, including bare-bones catastrophic care if that's what they want. Now that bill would have to have 60 votes to pass under the current rules, because it's not strictly speaking a budget bill. Well, it is absurd to let that rule and the Senate parliamentarian, control that decision. To say that that list of 20 stuff is not a budget bill is ridiculous. Of course it's a budget bill. It relates directly to what the cost of the program is. The reason the program is too expensive now is because of that list, and it's a cost-cutting measure that should only require 50 votes. So here's what they need to do. When the bill comes up for consideration, they should move it as a 50-vote bill. The parliamentarian will rule it out of order, saying it needs 60 votes. Someone like Ted Cruz, who's been pushing this, will object, appeal the ruling of the chair, and the Senate will reverse the chair 50 to 48 on a party line vote, and the bill will sail through. That's if the Republicans want to be gentle. They want to be tough about it. They could use that occasion to change the rules entirely and eliminate the filibuster for anything, and say that any bill and any appointment can come up and only needs a majority to be voted on. That's something that really ought to happen. But it is absolutely crazy for these Republican senators, these establishment types, to say, oh, we can't mess with the rules. We can't sweep aside the parliamentarian. We're not brutes. We're not dictators. We follow the rules. That's nonsense. If Trump doesn't repeal Obamacare, his administration is dead. If he does appeal it, his administration is a success. And to let the ruling of one balding, gray-haired old guy stop us from the changes that are needed when we have a majority on the floor that can reverse them is insane. It's pretty clear what's going to happen with the economy and what that means for each of us as individual investors. The reason the economy has been so sluggish is not that the mechanics aren't there. Obama and the Federal Reserve Board have pumped massive amounts of money into the economy. But people aren't spending it. They aren't borrowing it. They're not investing it because they're scared to death that the healthcare regulations will change, the environmental regs will change, the coal plants will go out of business, the cost of electricity will double. People don't know what the rules are, and as a result, they're simply sitting on their money and not investing it. And when Donald Trump comes along and says, I'm going to repeal these environmental rules, I'm going to guarantee you a static rule framework for your investments, I'm going to repeal the healthcare rules, I'm going to bring us back to the days, essentially, of a free market economy. That's a basis where businessmen, investors, and consumers come out of the woodwork and say, well, now we can take a chance. And there is a vast amount of money that is being sequestered away as against the sun coming out again. You have about half a $500 billion that consumers have gotten, and they've used it to pay down their mortgages and their credit cards, but not to make new purchases because they're afraid. And businesses, corporations, are sitting on $2 trillion on their balance sheets, which they're not investing, they're not making earnings on. They're not even putting it into their own companies because they're so pessimistic. And then there's $1 trillion that the banks have gotten through quantitative easing that they can't lend out, and they won't lend out because the risks are too great. And finally, there's $2 trillion abroad that people won't even bring into the country. They're so afraid of what the legislation might do to them. Well, when Trump assures everybody that he's not going to ambush them, that 6 or 7 or 8 trillion is going to come flooding into the economy. And it's going to increase demand and will send up inflation. The metaphor I like to use is Barack Obama took the gas gauge and filled every car to full with gas so they'd all go out driving. But nobody went driving because the weather was bad and they were afraid that the conditions for driving would be bad. So they drove to the parking garage and left the car there for 8 years. But now that the sun's coming out, everybody's going to go to the garage, take them out and start driving. And you have a serious risk, I would indeed say almost a certainty, of significant inflation. And that brings us around to the role of gold and silver. It is absolutely essential, in my view, that people increase their holdings of gold and silver. I have, because that is really the hedge that we need to have against inflation. And it's not a bad investment anyway, pretty good one. Silver is expected to rise by about 20% over the course of the next year. Even when the market crashed in 07 and 08, gold only went down 4% and has continued to rise substantially since then. So that's my view. That's my 2 cents. And that's, in fact, what I'm doing with my 2 cents, gold and silver. Thanks a lot for watching.
Very nice. Very good. Back to Pelosi, though. She constantly confuses the name of the president. She's recently gave the whole thing denouncing Bush when in fact she was planning to denounce Trump, Morris stated. I know, we just read all that. Dick Morris should know better than anyone, and that is why he's coming forward. He is used to being at the top and very influential Democrat and is a former Bill Clinton advisor. And he has been watching Pelosi and other political representatives closely. Every American needs to be aware of this. This may be the start. This may start a petition calling for her retirement, and we can finally get rid of her once and for all. She's on her way out anyway, folks. I wouldn't even stress Nancy Pelosi. She's so on her way out. Let's go with a couple articles here from Red State Watcher. What is this? This is interesting. President Trump to honor pledge and show huge support to major cause this weekend. Look at how beautiful that is, right? Love that. Love that color. President Trump to honor pledge and show huge support.
And on Sunday, the White House will honor World Autism Awareness Day by lighting the White House in blue to join with autism awareness community. Further research into the causes and treatments for autism spectrum disorders is one of the president's priorities. As we light it blue on Sunday, the White House will be celebrating all of the individuals and families whose lives are impacted by autism. I would note that it's a really interesting story how this came to be. The head of Autism Speaks, an organization that has done tremendous work with this, Bob Wright, who's one of the co-founders, is a longtime friend of the president. His wife, Suzanne, was struggling with pancreatic cancer last year, and the president made a pledge to her, and he said, if I'm elected president in support of this cause that you care so deeply about, I will light the White House blue. So it is in Suzanne and Bob Wright's honor that this will occur for this great cause. And I hope Bob knows that Suzanne is looking down proudly to see that pledge has been fulfilled.
Nice. The White House will honor World Autism Awareness and light up blue to join with autism awareness community. Okay. And that was quick, so let's go with one more. Just want to fill you with as much info as I can. Okay, that's his weekly address. That's a separate video. I'm going to do that separate. What is this? Breaking Fox News senior correspondent just revealed something very illegal about the Obama tap. I'm going to do it because these are usually quick. Okay. Fox News correspondent Adam Housley just revealed from several sources that President Trump's team was indeed spied on for political reasons. Our sources say it had everything to do with hurting and embarrassing Trump and his team. Sources say unmasking the names and then spreading the names was for political purposes and has nothing to do with national security. Our sources say the person who did the unmasking is very well known, very high up, very senior, and in the intelligent world, and is not the FBI. Sources say the surveillance that led to the unmasking of private names of American citizens started before Trump was the GOP nominee. To unmask a name is rare, never for politics. Congressional investigators know the name of at least one person who was unmasking names, and they know who, That's it. And they know who. So they know one of the people who were unmasking the names, and they know who they were unmasking. Is that everything? Yeah. Just keeps coming, right, folks? Never ending horror story. You can thank the left and the mainstream media for capitulating this and making it continue. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed at least our cartoons, if not the stories.